Today, we're going to talk about the top 20 destination marathons in the world. Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Letty. I host the Marathon Running Podcast and now also this channel. Welcome if you're new, and if you'd like to subscribe, you can do that right here, down there. Alright, so two things before we hop into this list of 20. Number one, these marathons were not picked based on how fast the courses are or your ability to PR. These races are solely picked based on their destination, the course, the sightseeing afterwards, and the ability of making a vacation out of these races. And I feel like the world majors take all the attention away from these other very beautiful marathons. Number two, I'm going to give you these races in a particular order, which is going to be going through the year. I'm going to start with races that take place in January and end with races that are in December. So again, they're not based on how great the races are, but solely based on the time of year when they take place. Alright, so with that said, let's hop into the first race, and that's going to be the Disney Marathon. The Disney Marathon takes place in January, although Disney has probably a lot of other marathons. We're talking about the January race, which is in Florida, which gives you great temperatures and also a great time to travel. This marathon is part of a series, or you can make it be part of a series called the Goofy Challenge, which makes you do a 5K on Thursday, 10K on Friday, half marathon on Saturday, and a full marathon on Sunday. But again, you can just run the Disney Marathon by itself. Some highlights about this race: the race runs through the Disney World Resort with character interactions, themed entertainment, and nighttime running through Magic Kingdom. The size of this type of race is about 25,000 people. The spectators are highly concentrated around areas where you can meet the characters. Given that this race takes place in Florida, it's going to be a flat course. You're in a theme park, there's not going to be a lot of hills there. As for sightseeing, you have a perfect chance to make this into a true family vacation. Disney has a lot of parks. You have Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, Animal Kingdom. You have two water parks, which are Blizzard Beach and Typhoon Lagoon. And then you also have Disney Springs for shopping before or after your vacation. This race is probably perfect for Disney fans, but if you are like me and you're not into Disney very much, it might still be very nice. I was actually recommended this race even though I'm not a Disney fan, so I think I might try this race out, especially that we're still living in Florida. When it comes to signing up for this race, I have heard through the grapevine that it's very difficult to get into Disney races sometimes, depending on which race it is. So you should probably inform yourself when you can sign up and then see how that works for you. Then be sure to also book the parks on time. Another spring race, a race that I recently ran, is the Tokyo Marathon. The Tokyo Marathon takes place towards the end of February and the beginning of March. This is one of the 6 major marathons, so it is extremely difficult to get into the race. There is a lottery with very low chances of getting in, even though I got in. And then you can also sign up through charities and tour groups, just like with the other majors. And if that all works out for you, you will be able to run the streets of Tokyo along with another 30 to 40,000 other participants. The Tokyo Marathon is absolutely beautiful, and there are a ton of spectators all throughout the race course. And when you run this race, you'll experience this electric Tokyo energy, and you'll run by some landmarks, including the Tokyo Tower and the Imperial Palace. When it comes to sightseeing, you can literally immerse yourself in the Japanese culture. You can visit ancient shrines like the Meiji Shrine and the Sensuji Temple. You can explore vibrant districts such as Shibuya or Shinjuku. Also, don't miss a chance to try the delicious Japanese cuisine. Close to Tokyo, there are also places to visit by train like Mount Fuji and Kyoto. It always helps to learn some basic Japanese phrases for some smoother experience, given that a lot of people in Japan, at least in my experience, did not speak English, which makes this whole experience even more unique and more fun. Alright, so next, another race in March is the Rome Marathon. We just literally ran the Rome Marathon this year. So we have a whole full podcast episode reviewing this race, which I will link in the show notes. And hopefully, if all goes well, you'll be able to see a card right here that tells you to click on our video of the Rome Marathon. If not, I'll put it down there. Anyway, so the Rome Marathon takes place in March and has some amazing sightseeing as a pedestrian, which is absolutely my favorite thing to do. I love it when they close the whole city down for us to be pedestrians and sightseers. So you're running through the Eternal City and you're passing by the Colosseum, Trevi Fountain, Roman Forum, the Spanish Steps, the Vatican, and just so much more. And it's just you along with 15,000 other runners. This race usually does not sell out, and also when we're talking about the Rome Marathon, you're paying European prices. As for spectators, you have a ton of them by the landmarks and also in the areas that are not so populated, which is great. The course terrain is mostly flat and there's a ton of cobblestone, so the cobblestone should not bother you. I barely noticed it, but again, we're not talking about a marathon you're racing. To me, this was a perfect family vacation race where you could just see so much more. While you're there, take your time to explore the rich culture and history of Rome. Visit the Colosseum, Roman Forum, Pantheon, Trevi Fountain, Vatican, St. Peter's Square, Sistine Chapel, and carb load on Italian food and eat a ton of gelato. Those are my recommendations. As for the weather of this race got a little bit warm, but we are talking in March, but we are talking close to the Mediterranean, so it's kind of a hit and miss. I'm sure you'll have some really hot days, but just like with anything, preparation is key. Alright, so next up is a marathon that takes place in April, which is the Paris Marathon. I ran the Paris Marathon a few years ago. It's kind of what we say in Germany. It's, April weather. It's very, very unpredictable. So this marathon could be hit and miss. You're going to see a ton of great stuff while you're running. You're going to be running by the Seine River. You're going to run past the Eiffel Tower, Notre Dame Cathedral, Louvre Museum, and the Champs-Élysées. And of course, you're going to see the Arc de Triomphe. This marathon is huge. This marathon caps out at 50,000 runners, so the whole world is there with you, running on the same course, which also means that there's a whole lot of spectators. You'll have a large and enthusiastic crowd all along the sites of this course, and especially around the landmarks. As for the terrain, this course is mostly flat with a few very gentle inclines along the Seine River. And of course, if you run the Paris Marathon, you're gonna need some time to explore the City of Lights. You're gonna be able to see the Eiffel Tower, Louvre Museum, Musée d'Orsay, Notre Dame Cathedral, Arc de Triomphe, and take strolls around the Champs-Élysées. You're gonna be able to enjoy delicious French food and pastries and drink coffee. And just like the Rome Marathon, this marathon is not very pricey to sign up for, and I don't think it has sold out in the last few years. So this is really a marathon that you should put on your bucket list. Alright, so next up is the Boston Marathon. The Boston Marathon takes place every mid-April on Patriots Day in Boston, and it's a beautiful race, very iconic and very historic. As you know, the Boston Marathon is one of the races that you have to qualify for and then meet a certain time cutoff standard. Also, you'll have the ability to join the Boston Marathon by getting in through charity groups and raising some funds. The Boston Marathon course is absolutely beautiful, but it is challenging. You have a downhill and then you have Heartbreak Hill up hills. The course is entirely lined with spectators, or at least it has been every time I ran it. It's a very positive, happy race, given the history, also the recent history of the Boston bombing, and now everyone coming out wearing Boston strong shirts, etc. This race caps out around 30,000 people. The whole race experience of Boston is just absolutely beautiful. When you go to Boston, make sure to give yourself enough time to really dive into the running community. There are so many pop-up stores, there are so many events and speaking panels for runners. I think you'll quite enjoy it. If you're traveling with your family and if you want to see some sights, there's a ton to see in Boston. There are Freedom Trails, Quincy Market, cheer on the Red Sox at Fenway Park. You can enjoy fresh seafood and explore all of the city's vibrant neighborhoods. Let's move on to another race that also takes place this time towards the end of April, which is the Big Sur Marathon. When you run the Big Sur Marathon, you'll be running along the breathtaking California coastline, and you'll get some scenic views of the Pacific Ocean cliffs, redwood forests, and maybe you'll even spot a whale or some dolphins. The size of this race is a little bit smaller. It caps out at around 4,000 people. And when it comes to spectators, you'll probably have a little bit less than the previous races just because of its remote location. at the same time, that probably won't bother you given that you'll be seeing these breathtaking views. When it comes to the course terrain, this course terrain is known to be a little bit more on the challenging side, so don't expect to PR on this. Before or after the big Sur Marathon, you'll have the chance to hike the trails of the Redwood National and State Parks. You can explore the charming town of Carmel by the sea and visit the Monterey Bay Aquarium. You can enjoy fresh seafood and California wines in the region. Again, due to its location, when it comes to lodging, your options might be a little bit limited, so it's always important to book ahead of time. Next on our list is the Great Wall Marathon in China. The highlight of this race is its challenge and also obviously its location. You're going to be running on sections of the Great Wall with stunning scenery and historical significance. Be prepared though for step ascents and descents. I mean, how awesome is that going to be? Be sure to be running with some little kind of camera device, right? Because these are probably memories you want to capture forever. When it comes to the size of this race is smaller. You'll only have 2,500 people participating in this race. The course terrain is going to be ups and downs, a lot of ascents and descents. Obviously, when you're participating in this race, you're not going to come for a day. You're going to take your time. So while you're there, you can explore the Great Wall of China, different areas, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. You can visit the Beijing's Tiananmen Square, the Forbidden City, and the Temple of Heaven. While there, make sure to immerse yourself in the Chinese culture and the Chinese cuisine. Just like with most of these marathons, make sure that you sign up on time, and also don't forget about the visa requirements for traveling to and from China, so be sure that you take care of that when you're looking into this race. Moving on, next on our list is the Stockholm Marathon. We ran the Stockholm Marathon just last year, and just like with Rome and Paris, we cannot believe what type of hidden gem this marathon is. This marathon is absolutely beautiful. We were sightseeing on foot. Again, the feeling of having the streets closed for you so you can do your sightseeing. We saw so much architecture, so much nature. There was a ton of spectators also for this race, which made the race even more fun. All of them yelling, "Hey-ya, hey-ya," which I'm sure means go faster, something like that. And we really had a great time there. The terrain of this race, coming from Florida, obviously, of course, is very challenging for us. There are a lot of hills, especially one very steep incline. But besides that, the nature and the beautiful course made up for it. I would definitely recommend and run this race again. While you're in Stockholm, make sure to visit the Stockholm Gamla Stan, which is the old town with its cobblestone streets and beautiful colorful buildings. You can visit the Royal Palace, the Vasa Museum, you can go to the Skansen Open Air Museum, and you can visit the Pippi Longstocking Museum if you have smaller children like me. All in all, you're not going to have a bad time in Stockholm, I don't think, ever. You couldn't. No, impossible. Alright, so from Stockholm, we are moving on. We're moving south. We're going to Africa, and we're going to talk about the Big 5 Marathon. While you're there, you're going to be running through the Entabeni Game Reserve, where you'll be able to encounter the African wildlife on a safari adventure. The term was actually coined by big game hunters to refer to the 5 most difficult animals in Africa to hunt on foot. So there's that. The size of this race is pretty small. You'll have less than 1,000 participants. And while you're on the course, instead of spectators, due to it being on a safari, you'll be with marshals and rangers who will be armed and letting you know if you ever have to stop because of Animal Crossing and all that stuff. This race sounds very exciting, but again, you're not going to run a PR on this type of race. Nevertheless, the terrain of this race is mostly flat. I'm not sure if they change it up, that it'll vary due to the reserve layout. You'll be running on a safari and you might see some really cool animals. Obviously, you're not coming in just for a night to run this race, so what are you going to do? While you're visiting, you can visit the safari. You can also visit Cape Town, Johannesburg, depending on your arrival on departure point. Given that this race takes place in June, you are talking peak season of traveling, so make sure that you book your accommodations and all that stuff well in advance, and let me know how this race goes. Maybe I will join one year. Alright, so next on our list is the Reykjavik Marathon, which takes place in the capital of Iceland, which is Reykjavik. This race takes place in late August, so We can't predict the weather. It might be great, but you might have some cooler weather. So running through Iceland's capital, you'll be able to enjoy seeing the city's colorful architecture, coastal scenery, and geothermal landscapes. The size of this marathon is pretty small. There's going to be about 2,000 other participants running the roads with you. And along those lines, you'll be able to see some moderate crowds along the capital cheering you on. The course of this marathon is going to be mostly flat with some gentle inclines. While there, you can do some amazing sightseeing, the colorful architecture, the Hallgrímskirkja church, which I'm totally mispronouncing, that offers some very panoramic views, and soak in the geothermal waters of the Blue Lagoon. It just looks absolutely amazing. From there, you can take some day trips and see the Golden Circle, South Coast, or the Jökulsárlón Glacier Lagoon. Alright, so we're moving south to another UNESCO World Heritage Site where you will find the Petra Desert Marathon. Here you'll run through the ancient city of Petra and see a lot of the city that is chiseled into the rocks and the canyons. The size of this marathon is medium with 1,500 participants. When it comes to spectators, the crowds are limited due to the remote location, which on the other hand makes this marathon so scenic. You'll be running through a mixed terrain of hilly, not hilly, uneven surfaces, desert trails, etc., which will be a lot of fun. While there, you should definitely take the time to explore the aspiring treasury of Al-Kazne and other carved tombs and temples of Petra. Hike the monastery, the Adir, for breathtaking views. While there, also consider visiting the Dead Sea or also the ancient city of Yarish. Also remember to take the precautionary measures necessary for you, meaning sunscreen or anything, that you'll be able to complete this marathon in such temperatures. Another marathon that takes place in September is the Jungfrau Marathon, which takes place in Switzerland. Here you'll run through the breathtaking Alps with stunning mountain views and challenging high altitude sections. The participant number is pretty small at 4,000 participants, and the spectators, of course, are limited due to the remote mountain locations that you'll be running in. Lots of support will be coming from volunteers and race officials. The course terrain is going to be very challenging given that this is a race that takes place in the mountains with a lot of altitude and climbing. Perhaps it would be smart to arrive a couple of days early to try to acclimate to this altitude. You can also travel around the Swiss mountain while there because it's just absolutely gorgeous. Next on our list, also for September, we have the Marathon du Médoc, which happens in France. This festive fun run takes place through the vineyards of the Bordeaux wine region, with wine tasting and food stations along the course. The size of this marathon is medium at 8,000 participants. There will be large and festive crowds cheering on the runners along the course, with wine tasting and food stations adding to the lively atmosphere. As for sightseeing before and after the marathon, you can explore the city of Bordeaux, which is known for its wine production. You can visit the wineries in the region, sample delicious French cuisine, and enjoy a relaxed atmosphere. You could consider day trips to nearby medieval cities or day trip to the Dunes du Pilat. Given that this marathon takes place in the peak season of travels in Europe, be sure to book well in advance. Next on our list, also in mid-September, we have the Sydney Marathon. The Sydney Marathon runs through the scenic city of Sydney, featuring the iconic Harbour Bridge crossing. This marathon is about to become a major and has about 40,000 participants. Large and enthusiastic crowds all throughout the course, especially by the landmarks. The Sydney Marathon course is inclines here and there, including the incline by the Sydney Harbour Bridge crossing. While in Sydney, don't forget to explore these landmarks, including the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge. Visit Bondi Beach for surfing or sunbathing, explore the Royal Botanic Gardens, and climb the Sydney Towers for panoramic views. We're talking peak season here again, so make sure that you book your accommodations well in advance. Next up on our list is the Cape Town Marathon, taking place in Cape Town, South Africa. This run is a very scenic run along the stunning views of the Table Mountain, offering a mix of urban and coastal scenery. This race, as you guys know, is applying to become one of the majors, so stay tuned for that. For now, this race is of medium size with 12,000 annual participants, large group of spectators cheering on the runners along the course. The course terrain is moderately challenging due to its location, but as you can see, this race is also pretty gorgeous. While there, you can explore Cape Town's vibrant waterfront, visit Robben Island, which is Nelson Mandela's former prison. You can take a cable car ride to Table Mountains and discover the penguins on Boulder Beach. While there, you should enjoy hiking, wine tasting, and exploring the city of Cape Winelands. Same as with all the other marathons, we're talking September here, so this is peak season of traveling in Europe. Make sure you book your accommodations timely. Alright, next up on our list is the Berlin Marathon, also taking place in September. This is also one of the world major marathons, and it's getting harder and harder to get into this race via lottery, but I'm sure there's also charities and other options and time qualifiers if you are fast enough. For this course, you are running on a very flat and fast course, and former world records have been set on this course. As for the participant number, you are talking 45,000 runners, maybe 50 at this point, and large groups of spectators all throughout the city of Berlin. While in Berlin, make sure you do a lot of sightseeing. This is a place with a very rich history. You can visit the Brandenburg Gate, the Reichstag building, remnants of the Berlin Wall. If you want to have a little bit more of a deeper historic experience, there are concentration camps that you can visit around the area. If you want to keep it lighthearted, then make sure that you partake in the lively atmosphere of this beautiful city. Next on our list is the New York City Marathon, which I've been told to absolutely not forget because it is the New York City Marathon. This marathon takes place every first Sunday in November. And given that we're talking New York, the weather is kind of a hit and miss. Sometimes it's really hot, and a lot of times it's kind of cold, and sometimes it is just right. When you're running New York, you'll be running through all the 5 boroughs of New York City, experiencing iconic landmarks and very diverse neighborhoods with energetic crowds. The size of this marathon at this point is 50,000 participants, and the spectators are probably 10 people deep. I mean, I just ran the New York City Marathon last year and I've never seen this many spectators all throughout the course. That was pretty amazing. The course of this marathon is moderately challenging as there are tons of inclines and bridges on the course, but it is absolutely beautiful. While in New York, you can explore the endless sights of the city. You can visit the landmarks like the Statue of Liberty, Central Park, Times Square, and see the Metropolitan Museum of Art. You can experience these diverse neighborhoods, world-class Broadway shows, and enjoy some delicious food options. Also in November and next on our list is the Athens Marathon, the ancient Athens Marathon. Here you can run the historic route from Marathon to Athens, following in the footsteps of Pheidippides, who ended up dying after running a marathon. The size of this marathon is medium at 15,000 participants, and a large crowd of spectators cheering you on this course. The course of this marathon is moderately challenging. There are just a lot of inclines. While in Athens, there's a ton of sightseeing that you can do. You can visit Acropolis, Parthenon, the Plaka neighborhood, ancient Agora, and maybe even explore the surrounding islands. Alright, so last but not least, we're talking about the Honolulu Marathon, the Hawaiian Marathon on the island of Oahu, which takes place every December. We actually got to run this marathon a couple of years ago, and I absolutely loved everything about it. When you run this marathon, you'll run along the beautiful Oahu coastline with scenic views of Waikiki Beach, Diamond Head, and the Pacific Ocean, and you'll experience a lot of Hawaiian festivities. This race is pretty large with a participant number of 20,000 and tons of spectators that'll cheer you on along the route. When it comes to the course terrain, this race is mostly flat, but there are some larger inclines, and a lot of times you'll have a lot of headwind. While on Oahu, there are a ton of things to do. You can relax on Waikiki Beach or other beaches. You can learn how to surf. You can explore the cuisine. You can embrace the Polynesian culture, do a lot of hikes like Diamond Head or Bamboo Forest hikes, and explore the whole beauty of Oahu. Alright, so that's it. Those are the top 19 destination marathons that we found using your input in our Facebook groups, which I will also link down here. Obviously, there are a ton of other beautiful marathons and I would love to hear about them. We all have our own personal preferences and cities that we live in and fall in love with, running communities that we love. For example, I really like the LA Marathon. However, this is more of a general list for people that want to take a vacation and go somewhere We're planning on making other videos in the future of fastest marathons, etc. So any input that you want to give me, please put it in the comments below so I can consider it for future videos. If you're still here and this video is of value to you, I ask that you please consider subscribing because it'll help me get feedback and I'll produce more videos in the future. Thank you so much, and until next time, have a great week of running.